Okay. First, I'm going to have you guys go down and introduce yourselves and tell us the name of your business, and then let us know what your value-added part of your business is. As our first question.
Oh, easy. Nicola McPherson. I own Ozark Forest Mushrooms, and my value-added big part of my business is dried mushrooms.
I'm Terry Durham from River Hills Harvest, elderberry producers, and we do elderberry products, a number of different ones, and have an elderberry nursery and educate about growing elderberries.
My name is Fletcher Darby. I'm the coordinator of Patchwork Family Farms. We're a pork co-op here in Columbia. Our value-added stuff is a lot of stuff like bacon, bratwurst, things like that. Basically, we just take pork cuts, and then the value-added stuff would be, cured meats, seasoned meats, things like that.
Wonderful. Thank you. First question. That's the harder of the questions. What factors helped you make the decision to take the leap and begin value-added processing? We can go down the line, or you can jump back and forth.
I may have mentioned this in my talk, but mine was sort of an accident or a disaster that I turned into an opportunity. We had the '93 flood, and all my mushroom logs were underwater for several days, and then they all fruited, and the quality of the mushrooms was, they were obviously very damp. And being thrifty, I didn't want to throw them away, and so I then started drying mushrooms. And so that's kind of how I started doing it. I didn't have a business plan to do it. It was just a sort of an opportunity that knocked on the door.
Well, we got into the elderberry business after we had been into growing organic vegetables. We grew vegetables for quite a few years. We didn't know as much about soil health back then. We tilled a lot. We were seeing our soil, even when we put compost and stuff on there, was degrading because we were tilling it so much and working it so hard that we moved into perennials. In about 2000, we stopped doing vegetables and changing over to 2005 to have a permaculture system of elderberries that we could grow. And then we knew that elderberry was a processing crop, so we had to make it into products to be able to sell it. And we've been working on that for 12 years. We've been making the elderberry juice.
So our value-added products come partly out of demand. People like things like bratwurst. People like things like sausage. And partly out of necessity. There are certain cuts that just don't get bought as much as other cuts. Hams, things like that. People buy hams around Christmas time. So what we started doing is taking some of those other things and turning them into other value-added products, just so that we could move them, get through inventory and things like that. So we take our hams, hocks, things like that, turn them into grind and make other products out of them.
Great, thank you. Where did you find information on getting started? Were there any particular resources that were more valuable to getting started in the value-added processing business?
Well, mine was packaging, because you can have a great product, and packaging and boxes and printing plates cost a lot of money. So I got a lot of help from Agri Missouri, which is now called Missouri Grown, is that right? And in those days, they had grants for packaging and boxes, and that really helped me out, because if you're a small farmer, to go buy 5,000 boxes, it can cost you a lot of money. So thank you very much for helping me out with that. And I also have the Agri Missouri logo on all my products.
When we first started doing elderberry stuff, there weren't a lot of knowledge. There wasn't a lot of resources for us to have. There weren't any products made. Maybe some elderberry jelly was the very few things that were being made out of the elderberries. So we worked really close with a friend and co-packer, Ernie Boner from Persimmon Hill Farms. He's been doing stuff for a really long time, and we learned a lot from him. We also took classes through the state to get our licenses for different kinds of processing and to educate about adding value to the food.
So I actually wasn't around at the inception of our value-added program, but we had a bit of a leg up, because Patchwork is a profit-making project of the Missouri Rural Crisis Center, and so they already had a large network, basically, of people that they could talk to for resources. So whenever we started out, I'm sure, it was just kind of a word of mouth thing. We used people in our network, and they said, hey, this is a good processor to use. This is a good smokehouse. Start using them. So yep, we had a little bit of a leg up in that area.
Very good. What were some of the key barriers or obstacles you faced when getting started, or maybe obstacles that you continue to face right now?
Well, getting your own health and safety kitchen on the farm, or using other kitchens to use, and carting all your stuff around to do that. Working with the health department, learning all the rules and regs.
Well, for us, it was a matter of accumulating the knowledge. There wasn't a lot of education out there, so we worked with the university, with the agroforestry department, which has been great over the years to help do the research that the farmers would need so that we could move forward in learning different ways to grow the crop that we were trying to grow. And they've been doing great work with the chemistry of the elderberries to allow us to add more value and learn more ways that we can prepare it and harvest it, and different things we can do to increase the nutritional value and the value we can get on the farm, doing the work with the flowers, with the fruit, all the way through there. And we've just had to work together with a large group at the Department of Agriculture, the university, and the farmers to make it all start happening.
So I think one of the hurdles we face actually is also part of our mission is to keep small local lockers in business. So one of the big hurdles we face is actually just having places to process that are local and small. Right now we work with 3 different meat lockers. We use 2 for processing, 1 for a smokehouse. But yeah, really that's it. For us, the large hurdle is just finding small independent lockers that we can work with, because it is a dying business, and we try to find them and help them out and keep them in business. So.
Great. As you started your business, or even now as you're moving forward, how important was technical assistance, and where did you find some of that most valuable technical assistance?
I attended several extension workshops on health and safety. Going to St. Louis University, I had some help there with the food nutritionalists, dietitians, and their use of their kitchen. So I'm sure there's tons of other things I should be saying right now, but those are the ones that come off my head.
Well, for us, it's been that partnership of we've had to get the research done so that we could learn about the ways to grow the elderberry. So it's been vital to us, because nobody really knew how to commercially grow them, how we could harvest them, all the different things that we had to learn about a minor crop. But with a minor crop, that gives opportunity to new growers, because there's not very many people growing it. Now elderberry is the #1 planted small fruit in the state, more than blueberries, elderberries, or blackberries. And Missouri has been turned into the #1 producer of elderberries in the nation now, mostly because we were able to get the education and the leadership that we needed to do that here in Missouri.
Really, our greatest resource has been kind of what I touched on earlier. We did have a little bit of a network set up of farmers. I could sum it up in, the wisdom of farmers is one of our greatest resources. If we don't know something, we can put the call out. We can ask our network, and usually we'll get an answer pretty quickly from them.
Very good. Other barriers tend to be on the financial side. So were there any financial tools or supports that you've had along the way that made a difference when you were starting?
Well, I go back to my boxes and my packaging. That was huge. And the SARE grant that we got for the wood furnace that heats our greenhouse for winter mushroom production, which has been a huge success, because it extends my growing season. We also got a grant that helped me purchase a mobile greenhouse too, which we use for specialty greens and for pesto value-added products for that too. So yeah, quite a few of them.
So over the years, I've used a number of different programs. When I first started farming organically in 1978, there was nobody that was going to loan any money to me to develop my infrastructure except the state. and they had a great little program with the Department of Agriculture in Missouri, and they were able to loan me enough money to put in wells to buy the different kinds of equipment that I needed to start raising vegetables. And then we've moved that. We've used SARE grants over the years through the USDA to do promotion for elderberry and for the educational parts of it that we do, and to do farmer research. Our growers use it to do more farmer research. And we continue to rely on the university to help sponsor the educational components that we use. So we've used also then the NRCS is another component that our farmers can use the EQUIP program to help financially help them with cost of putting in elderberries. That's been a great program here in Missouri, and as in the EQUIP program, that special agroforestry component, which we are the only state in the United States that has that in our set up with the NRCS. And so we see that our growers utilize that system to help finance them to get started growing really well. So we try to use everybody. We've used the Agri-Missouri program for many years in different aspects, from getting new labels to when they used to supply us with signage and boxes and sacks to sell at the farmer's market.
So being a nonprofit, a large part of our funding actually does come through donations. We just did a huge fundraising campaign here in Columbia, the Como Gives fundraising campaign at the end of the year. Being a nonprofit, you run into a lot of funding hurdles, but actually we are happy to announce that due to Como Gives this year, we do have a new office coming in the next couple months. So we're growing and expanding in that way. So.
What rule changes, policies, or infrastructure improvement in Missouri might be helpful for your operation now or for future plans?
I would love to see the Missouri Organic Program put back into operation. We were organically certified for 15 years. I was sad to see that go. The other thing I know, Terry, I don't touch on as much, but to have a processing authority here in this state, so I don't have to talk to somebody in North Carolina University to get a processing authority, whatever it's called, a piece of paper. That would be helpful.
So, and we've talked about this before, some of our friends, the importance of having a state processing authority. Missouri does not have a processing authority that's publicly available that we can use. So every time we come up with a new recipe or we have a challenge of some type with our processing, we have to go to Nebraska or Oklahoma. Now we can't. We used to be able to go to Arkansas, but they have also lost their processing authority now too. So that's a huge infrastructure barrier to not have a state inspector that can do that stuff for us, someone at the university that can lead people through the process of taking a product. You have a great idea and you have a formula. How do you turn that into a value-added product? And it's an experience. It takes there's a lot of learning curve and learning to manufacture and to produce food. And we don't really have much help in Missouri. We used to have the university used to have a processing authority. They let that position go. They don't have anyone in there anymore. And even that one was not insured enough by the university so that they could sign off on stuff. So they would look at your stuff and okay it, but they wouldn't be able to actually sign off on your processing authority for your HACCP plan or for the other ones. And we'd still have to send that to one of the other states around here so somebody in their university system would be able to approve the products that we were trying to make here. So that's a really important infrastructure barrier, and that in the education. Young people, when you're trying to start a new product or get a new product introduced and figure it out, if you're new to it, there's a lot of hurdles. If you've never had to mess with a HACCP plan or have the FDA come and breathe down your neck looking at your process that you've done, and you've never really had anyone come and watch you do it and say, okay, yes, you are doing everything right, because you read a lot And you can go through the classes, but that's not like having somebody that's actually with the university or with Extension or the Department of Agriculture, so they can come in and say, yes, you are doing this right, and you can maybe do this better. Because when the inspectors show up, they just tell you about their concerns more. They don't tell you really how to fix something. They just say, well, this is wrong. You need to change this. So we need help with learning how to adapt the systems and how to make the processing available for smaller growers. And the other part of that I like to put out there is that we have a lot of people that produce things in their kitchen that sell them at the farmer's market. The cottage industry is very limited here in Missouri because of our state laws. Other states that I work with, they're much easier to produce things in your home kitchen to sell right at the farmer's market. And we need more training for people to be able to do that safely, because we don't have enough inspectors to go around to all the farmers markets and make sure that people are preparing those foods properly. And the public needs to be safe in this, and if we put food out there that's not healthy, it'll give everybody a bad name.
I'll just back you guys up on that. I say local governing bodies are always better than ones, far away. So,
Where do you see your enterprise going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see potential for growth?
Yeah, as my son says, I have to grow more mushrooms each year. I never not sell everything I have. So yeah, I do see myself growing more mushrooms. There is more demand for the value-added products, especially for me with specialty food stores and CSAs. So yeah, I do see an increase in that.
Well, in the elderberry industry is growing really, really fast. We work with people all over the country. Missouri has the biggest number of growers. A big part of what's grown in this country is from Missouri, and that's because we've been working here the longest. And we could have used millions of pounds more than we have. There's only about 1,000 acres planted right now, and we estimate we need at least 20,000 acres just in the central part of this country to take care of the needs that we have.
yeah, we are always growing, and we always want to continue to grow. As far as patchwork goes in the next 5 years, we are in the St. Louis market already. We'd like to expand in the St. Louis market, obviously. We may reach out soon to the Kansas City market. We were in Jefferson City. We may go back again, expand to basically just towns around the area. We do want to expand our education as well. We do farm camps currently. We take kids out to farms, show them how sustainable farming happens. But yeah, as much as we can, I would say, in the next 5 years. Kansas City, I think, would be the big one for us. But
Good. And I think you've all offered some of this, but what advice would you give to a farmer or producer who wants to go into or is considering a value-added product for their existing farmer, maybe even brand new to farming?
Yeah, I always start small. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify maybe your market. Get out there in the farmer's market, meet the end consumer, talk to people, education. That's how I would give some advice and build on that.
Starting small with value-added products is really important because there's a lot of mistakes you end up making. A little thing on a label or some little thing that's not right. If you buy too much of one thing, then you have to throw it away or do something else with it. So starting small so that you can learn all the parts of making it, the parts of selling it, labeling it. There's a lot of different components to a value-added product. You have to be sure that your whole value chain is in order of what you have to get in, your labels, your boxes, your things that you have to ship it out, and that you have the marketing in place. And so starting small and growing with baby steps, that's the way I like to do things.
I would say absolutely get into value added if you can, even just for the marketing opportunities. Every time we come up with a new value added product, we're able to put it out there as our new flashy product, get people interested in it, get a little brand awareness out there if they hadn't seen the post we had before, So, yeah, absolutely.
Very good. That's the end of my questions, but we're going to open it to the audience if you have any questions for our panelists.
Terry, particularly, I noticed that you have a destemmer for elderberries, and I'm curious about two things about that. One is whether you developed that yourself there in your business. The other is to point out the extent to which just reducing handling expense and handling difficulty constitutes adding value to that product, because the harder it is for the farmer to put it in the processor or consumer's hands, the less value that product has in a per hour of life basis to the farmer.
Well, I've always believed that the tools can make a huge difference in small farming. And, it was when we used to grow 200 vegetables, it was hard to capitalize on any individual thing enough to make it really efficient. But when you reduce that number, like to the elderberries, the big infrastructure barrier was there was no way to clean the berries. It was too hard to destem every one of those little berries by hand, which was the way people had traditionally had to do it. So we had to make a machine that would work, that would make it more efficient, which makes the whole thing possible. So now we're working on, with the university this time, we did all the others ourselves. It was a lot of investment to make those destemming machines. And now we're working on a cleaning mechanism that the university has helped get a SARE grant that will improve all of that so that we can even become more efficient. Because a lot of things, even with the pawpaws, a lot of the minor fruits, there's always a machine or something in there that will help it make it more efficient. Like with pawpaws, people need pulpers. They need the kinds of equipment specifically for that crop to make it possible. If you're growing hazelnuts, well, you need some machines to prepare those and to pick them up and how to clean them. So there's the machinery, the small-scale machinery that works for small farmers really makes that more accessible to us. You could buy a harvester that might cost $50,000 or $100,000 for some of the minor crops, but if you have a small one that didn't cost as much that farmers can use efficiently, then we can spread that stuff around. It's not building huge, big farms. It's lots of smaller farms.
I have a question. You were talking about growing bigger. And with that, how do you see your labor factoring into that? Because you've been managing a crop, and as you get bigger and bigger, it seems to me you're going to be doing a whole lot of managing people. And where do you draw the line as to what you're going to do, whether you're going to manage your crop or manage your people?
Oh, that's a hard one, because I've always feel that small is beautiful. And I feel that I will probably get to a ceiling where I'm happy to stay right there. Managing people is hard, running a business, especially a small farm business. And I work in 2 locations, which makes it even more difficult. So I see myself reaching a point where it's sustainably bigger and not bigger as finance, if you see what I'm saying. And also, my product, the oak logs, a finite resource. So I can only get so much in that I can source where I am. The next question is, should I go buy logs from other places? I've had several people tell me, oh, we could get them, and then I'd have to ship them in, and then that price would be higher for me. And then I'd have to put my mushroom prices up. So yeah, it's a difficult question. I feel that you should get to a sustainable ceiling for your farm and where you are. And maybe the value-added products, you could increase those, and then that would add more value to what you have on the farm, rather than increasing the amount that you have on the farm.
So kind of the plan that I've been working with is that what we really need in Missouri are more small farmers. And we can spread that production out if we offer them a marketplace and some place where they can sell their things and feel good about it. You know, Missouri is the small farm state. We have more small farms in Missouri than any state except Texas, I believe. And we're actually growing more small farms, which is very unique. Not hardly any place is growing more small farms. So by offering opportunity for people to go out to the country and get some ground and start a farm or get a farm that's going, we have a lot of opportunity in Missouri for that. And I see that we are actually growing more farms, and we want our farmers to be able to have profit. So it's mostly about having markets that allow smaller farmers to be able to tap into them. You know, we believe, like co-ops, we have a co-op started in for the Midwest. Missouri doesn't have very many members yet, but up north there's a lot more members for that. So we believe in spreading the production out, developing an infrastructure so that the small farmers can tap into the bigger infrastructure and still have those advantages of marketing and stuff. Because marketing's different than it used to be. Used to, we needed to be close to the city, or we had to haul everything to the Kansas City or St. Louis or to Columbia. And that was part of agriculture, was stabilizing and moving it to the market. Well, now the market comes to us. We can be on the farm, make value-added products, sell it over the internet, and we can sell to the world. It's not, you have this huge number of people out there. It's so much different than selling everything off the back of your truck the way that we used to do. Now we sell to the world from our farm, and they come there to buy it from us, and they pay for it in advance, which is the other really nice thing about internet marketing.
To that, we do exist. Patchwork exists as a market alternative to the general pork market. So as far as growth goes and labor, we only take in a certain part of that labor. Obviously, the farmers would be able to maintain their labor that they do now. As much as they can produce or feel comfortable producing, they can do that and then bring it to us, and we can just hire more people to drive the trucks around and deliver the stuff. So we're ready to keep growing.
I have a quick question back here. I work with a lot of young people, and sometimes they don't show a lot of grit or perseverance. And I'm wondering, and what you do, it sounds to me like, especially at the beginning, you have to have a lot of perseverance and grit. How would you tell a young person that might be thinking of getting into this, or how would you increase their interest in doing stuff like this in the future, given that sometimes they are used to having things instantly right there?
Well, you know, I would just say that it's a great industry to be in. It's fun, and I mean, nothing comes immediately. Baby steps are the way to go. Incremental steps. Each small victory is a victory, and that keeps us going. So, yeah, as far as getting people interested, I fell into it because I was just interested in the food industry. So that's kind of where, you know, I got into it. I was a restaurant guy for a long time. We do actually have, through education programs, like I said earlier, we do farm camps. We get kids on farms. We do a lot of that. We do some cooking education and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as attracting them, that's what we do. And, you know, it's just fighting the good fight after that.
Yeah, I don't know. You may have answered my question already, but I'll ask it anyway. I heard you mentioned state laws giving a lot of friction to the cottage industry, and I was wondering is that something new, or have they always been there and just not?
I mean, we've had a cottage industry for a long time, and I'm not the expert on all the cottage industry stuff, but, you know, making jelly and a lot of the simple things people can do in their kitchen and sell it locally to farmers market. They're not selling it across state lines or anything. So the rules are a little different for what you can do in a kitchen. Other states, they're much laxer. They can do a lot more in Wisconsin in your home kitchen and sell it locally at the farmer's market than what we can in Missouri. So those laws are varied, but they're local laws. So it could be better. Missouri could have easier laws, but we need to have a better education system about them to teach people how to utilize what we have properly, and then maybe we can expand on.